Welcome. Welcome. Tonight's program will dive deep into fringe knowledge of lost, hidden, and suppressed truths about the nature of our reality. The decoding process can be uncomfortable and at times frightening. However, you are not alone on this journey of understanding. Welcome to the Shadow Band Podcast.
It's the end of the world. Hit grid. There you go. It's the end of the world, bro.
Yeah, brother. Let's go.
It's the end of the world as we know it. You seen that earthquake that happened, dude? The tsunami? Johnny Tsunami?
Nope.
You didn't see it?
Oh, is it bonkers crazy?
No, it really wasn't. But I woke up this morning and I was doing my morning poo, and I was looking through the things and saw that there was like an 8.8 magnitude earthquake. I don't know, it was like Russia or Japan, somewhere over there, right? And there was like all these alerts that was like, what I saw, it was like 2 hours ago, like tsunami incoming, Hawaii under tsunami watch, all of West Coast United States under tsunami watch. There was like gridlock traffic in Hawaii, like 2 hours to go a block, like all this stuff. So before I left the house, I was thinking to myself, like, oh man. And apparently it's like the biggest earthquake that's happened anywhere in the world in like the last however long, hot minute.
Well,
And then I tried to find videos of the tsunami. Big nothing murder.
I doubt there's actually a tsunami, but you know what's really telling about times like these when this kind of stuff happens is like how absolutely useless our highway system is. It's like you just put out something, hey, and then it's like gridlock traffic, you can't move.
Yep.
Oh. What was the point of these highways?
Yeah, and if there was like a massive tsunami, like a Day After Tomorrow situation, you remember that movie where the tsunami just everybody's done, bro. You're cooked. What are you gonna do?
But I'm saying, like, they give you the warning, so it's like, okay, what are we supposed to do? Sit in traffic, die in your car.
Die in your car. Be a man. Die in your car.
Yeah, be a coward. Real men stayed inside.
Listen, this is why I have a bug out bag in my car at all times, because if something like that ever happens and we're in gridlock evacuation status, I'm ditching the car, bro. I'm walking. You know, the average human being walks like 3 to 4 miles an hour, right? Now, if I'm freaking out, I'm probably going to be moving at like a nice clip, 6, 7, 8 miles an hour, right? Which means I can get pretty far in 2, 3 hours.
Yeah. I mean, if you have to get out of, whatever city you're in, a couple hours, you'll be out.
Yeah, bro.
Get to the coast.
Crazy stuff. It is funny though, because the other day I was doing Infinite Rabbit Hole and Jeremy said something too. He's like, the Ring of Fire, it's starting to flare up, right? He was talking about it, and literally like 12 hours later, boom, earthquake. I was like,
well played.
Well played, brother. Well done.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just a matter of time. Because see, this is what happens, right? You get an earthquake over here, you get a lot of seismic activity everywhere else, and obviously equal and opposite reaction. All that force gets distributed back to the other side of the planet. There's a caldera right there in the middle of the United States, man.
That kind of freaks me out. That freaks me out more than most of the stuff, that we talk about that freaks me out.
There's nothing. I mean, there's nothing you can do. There's no prepping that can be done. It's like you're going to run out of food quick. Really quick, and there's going to be nowhere to go to get more. The whole entire center of the United States of America is going to be ash.
Listen, I've seen predictions where like if Yellowstone went up, right, like there'd be like multiple feet of ash all the way over here in Florida, bro. Like, we're
Yeah.
cooked. You know, you'd have to be in
Yeah.
friggin' Siberia to not be cooked, you know?
Yeah.
And then
So it's
those
like, yeah,
people will
move
be
to
worried about
Chile
the
or
food,
something.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, it'd be
Did you
nuts.
look
But
up
this is
that?
how.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go.
No. The answer to your question is no.
You didn't look
I
it
know what
up.
you're gonna ask. I didn't look it up, dude. I, as soon as I got on my phone, I was like, "Oh yeah, we got to get a topic for the pod." He said of that fireball thing that was floating around, and then I was like, "Oh, what about those temples?" So I just was like, "Let me get a search going so that I know to come back to it." The ancient temples, and I
Right.
never left. I just immediately was like down the temple rabbit hole. So
The temple rabbit hole is crazy. We'll get into that, but I just do want to quickly
yes,
talk
no, tell
about
me.
this,
Yes, no,
you
no, no.
know, this object in space, if you believe it. But apparently they're saying like
Yeah.
this thing's like an interstellar object. I think they say it's like 7 or 9 miles wide, right? And it's like headed straight in, bro, coming right in from behind the sun. So you can't see it. All these like astrophysicists are like speculating like there's no way this is like a natural object. You know, Jeremy thinks it might be an
What?
alien craft.
Crystal, pull something up. Let me see it. I don't know what I'm looking for.
Uh, Three Eye Atlas.
Three Eye Atlas.
Yeah, people think it's 31 Atlas, but it's Three Eye Atlas.
I spelled it EYE or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
Three Eye
Three Eye.
Atlas object or something like that.
Three Eye Atlas comet.
Yeah, there you go.
Controversial paper questioning whether interstellar vision could be alien craft. Whoa. Discovered July 1st, 2025. Man, anytime something's this year, I don't like it.
Yeah, so basically the short story is this object, massive object, interstellar object, one of 3 ever discovered, right? Uh moving in at it is booking it, right? Coming in at such like a steep angle into the inner solar system that, like I said, they're, I don't know, it's a weird thing, right? Now, you know me, I'm the guy who doesn't necessarily think space is what they tell us it is, right? So when I hear this type of thing, it just makes me think like fake extraterrestrial threat, whether that's a fake alien threat or a fake impact threat, right? Either way, because to me, when I say things like Project Bluebeam, I'm not necessarily saying like holograms in the sky with the aliens. No. To me, Project Bluebeam is like external threat to Earth, right? So that could literally be like a comet's coming to smack us, or maybe alien or whatever it is, but just screams blue beam, fake extraterrestrial threat of some kind. And to go off of that as well, I saw another thing today. Apparently, there's an object that's slated to smack the moon in a few years that they're worried is gonna like cause massive like multiple impacts on Earth. Because whatever object this is, when it hits the moon, obviously it's gonna cause shotgun blast on the Earth. So again, Project
Dang.
Bluebeam, threats coming from space. I'm telling you, man, it's coming. It's coming.
So what's the object that they think is going to hit the moon? That's not this thing.
I don't think it's the same thing. I didn't really look into it that much. I saw a couple headlines on it. I saw like a short video, like those shorts. So I don't think it's the same object because from what I understand, this Three Eye Atlas object is not really going to impact anything. It's supposed to, make its way close-ish to us. I think they say like 6 times the distance from the moon from us, and then it's gonna like whip around the sun and get launched back out into deep space somewhere. You know, but
Bro, I don't like the years, man.
what
So
happened?
this is there's data showing that even with Earth avoiding direct impact, YR4 could still pose a threat in late 2032 by slamming into the moon. The impact would be once in a lifetime event for humanity to witness an asteroid this large has not struck the moon in over 5,000 years, dude. 2032. I don't like it, bro.
It's like right in that. It's like right in the slot, right? Right in that.
It's in the butter zone, dude.
Yeah.
It's in the butter zone. I don't
Yeah.
like it. These anything between 2030 and 2033-ish, don't like it.
Yep.
Don't like it.
It's screams great reset of some kind, you know, or I don't know, bro. Make sure you got your bug out bags. Don't get stuck in gridlock. That's all I'm saying.
You know what's interesting, right? So speaking of like these objects coming from the moon and like so what's really crazy is like our scientific looking at the stars astronomy and how disconnected it is to astrology. Like astrology has become like, what sign are you? I'm a Capricorn. That kind of stupid crap. But all cultures have used the stars and what any other celestial bodies to literally like make things and understand the universe in a way that we're only just learning or only just learned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When the Mayans and the Incas or whatever are calculating the wobble of the Andromeda galaxy and predicting the seasons with their temples and the stairs on their temples and stuff, and they're all astrology and the cycles and all this kind of stuff, and understanding the seasons and all this just from looking up. And then like that's their astrology, but it's like tied to the astronomy. It's not disconnected from it. And yeah, there's probably some woo-woo in there, but we've like disconnected the two things, and it doesn't seem like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a holistic view of the universe.
Yeah. I have theories on that, but we did get a comment. Your volume is much lower than mine apparently on the stream, so you might want to crank.
What?
Yeah, you might want to crank. Babe, can you turn off the PlayStation 2? Because I think we're sucking some internet out here. Turn that PlayStation off. Turn that TV off.
Bro, I'm maxed out right now. Something's wrong.
You're maxed out. Maybe I need to.
Now I'm maxed out. I'm even louder. Let me get the levels again. Well, something is not right. Hold on.
I just dialed mine back a little bit, so maybe we're closer to even now. Can I get a confirmation in the chat?
Hello.
Hello.
Do we have like noise stabilization on or something?
Yeah, just whatever.
I don't know, man. I'm cranked right now, so I can't get any louder.
Kenzo says more even.
More even, yeah. Okay, we're good. I'll back off my mic too a little bit so that we're relatively even. Yeah, it's weird, man. I don't know why the audio on here is jacked. We definitely need to switch things,
Yeah.
you know. This
Yeah,
seemed
for
like
sure.
a really good idea at first. I mean, it's cool.
No, it's
but
been
yeah,
working.
It's not the move.
Yeah.
But anyways,
so
yeah,
on
go
that
ahead.
topic, right? So I was looking at some of these ancient temples, and one of them in India, the Modera, I think it's called. I don't know. Don't get me on the pronunciation on this, but it is like, dude, it's crazy what these people were building and how it like these 3 different courtyards all lined up with the sun on the whatever equinox, the spring equinox. So like where there's like an even tilt on the earth or whatever, you know, so it's not day and night are perfectly equal.
Right.
So on that day, the sun hits like this courtyard and 2 chambers and lands in like this little whatever, perfectly calibrated everything on this one day. And I'm like, how? You would have had to like line it up on that day. Or do a little bit every year or something. I don't know. It's how do you line something up on a day? Something moving.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm telling you, I mean, like I do believe that the ancestors, right, the ancient ones, they had technologies and knowledge that has just been, I'm not even gonna say lost, but like hidden from us, right? So I
Yeah.
think there's definitely something to that, because even today, it takes, crazy engineering. You got to use like computer models. You got to, all this and that, and it's still janky, right? But you look
Yeah.
at these 10,000-year-old temples and it's like immaculate artwork, and built to like it'll stand forever. It already has.
Bro, I was just thinking this, bro. They will not insure a roof built with modern technology for more than 30 years. And these things are thousands of years old. Thousands. And they won't insure a roof. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not only that, but it's like this particular temple was like, what's up, Jason? What they got? So this particular temple had 12 pillars for the 12 seasons, 52 different something else's for the 52 weeks, 7 other chambers for the 7 days of the week, 108 different somethings in there, statues in there. And they're like, 108 might not seem like a 108 might not seem like a significant number to you, but actually there's some astronomical significance to 108. Like the sun is 108 times the diameter of the earth, and the sun is 108 diameters away from earth, and the moon is 108 of its diameters away from earth. I'm like, how'd this guy so there's one dude that wrote this in a book way back in India. How'd you do that?
See, I don't think that this is where we're gonna get into a little bit of space is fake shit right here, right? Because like what I think actually happened, this goes back to what you were saying earlier, where there's been like a disconnect between like astrology and astronomy, right? What I think really is going on or went on is that the ancient ones they were using this type of coding in a different way, and then the new age of like space agencies and this type of thing, they just took those encoded messages, those numbers and those symbols and all that stuff, and they fed it to us in a very like fake and like what's the word, like analytical way, right? So just to use like your example, right? Like I don't think that the moon is 108 diameters of the moon away from earth, or all that stuff. What it's probably is that the original story, right, of whatever that number is calling to or like alluding to something else, right? So
Yeah.
when you get into electric universe stuff, I'll have to send you this video. There's actually a couple videos. The Thunderbolts Project, right? They have this whole series called Symbols of an Alien Sky, okay? And they took like all of the cave paintings and all of the symbology and the archetypes that are found in all the cultures around the world, okay? So let's take for example like what's a good example that I can tell you? Okay, so like think about ancient Egyptian like royalty. They had this hat, right, that kind of went up. It was like an elongated hat that kind of curved, right, to like a little,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So this is just one of many examples, but I'll use this one. So in their presentation, now it all based off of like plasma science and electric universe shit. And what they've done was they basically showed, hey, look, man, if the universe is electric, okay, and you have these bodies, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, all these bodies in space, they're all at different polarities and different, charges, right? The idea, and I've talked about this before, right? Back in the golden age, right, that these Saturn death cult people worship, there were a few of the bodies in the solar system and they were in perfect alignment with each other. Okay. They weren't orbiting at different, whatever. They were like in perfect harmony, perfect locked geos, whatever, helios stationary orbits together. Okay. And at the time, Saturn was the brightest, biggest object in the sky, not the sun, right? This is why they worship Saturn. Okay. And in front of Saturn, so if you imagine we're here, right, and we're looking up in the sky, you see Saturn, and in front of that, so between us was Mars and Venus. Okay. So it was us, Mars, Venus, and Saturn in this locked situation. Okay. When whatever happened, the great disturbance, let's call it. Okay. Let's say the sun came in, close proximity with the original sun, Saturn, right? And it started shifting these objects out of their lock. Okay. What that caused was plasmic discharges from between the bodies. Okay. And this lasted for probably hundreds of years or thousands of years. And as these bodies slowly started to separate from each other and get, off centered from each other, you could see these discharges, right? And one of the examples that they show is that, look, man, and they show this in a lab too with different, they put in a vacuum chamber, they put like an object here and an object here. They're like electrically charged and there's like plasma inside the thing, right? And they move one of the objects away and it creates that exact same shape, right? That okay?
Yeah.
From one body to the next, right?
Oh,
so what
it's like a connection.
Like a connection, right? Same thing with Medusa, right? Medusa's the head, the female's head, and it's got all the snake fucking things that come out, right? Well, that was another example. They continued to move these objects away from each other and at a certain, angle or whatever, and you could see that when Venus and Mars started to separate from each other, it was like chaotic, like snakes coming off the thing. And all of the ancients looked at the bodies in the skies as if they were gods, right? So Venus was a goddess, right? And when this goddess got angry, right? In Hindu cultures, Greek cultures, there's always a representation of the angry goddess, right? It always has like this crazy hairdo, right, as the angry goddess. Well, Venus was the goddess, and as this stuff was happening, right, our ancestors were looking up in the sky at this, right, for generations. Like an entire generation would see this like crazy thing. So what I think is happening, my point is, I think that when they built these temples or they built these, alignments with these structures and all this stuff, they did the math and they put the numbers in the encoding and all that stuff, right? I think what they were really doing was trying to, essentially write down what was happening, what they were seeing in a way that would never get destroyed, right? It's not like you could just put it on paper or in parchment because there was cataclysms happening at the same time, right? People were getting wiped out. So they were trying to figure out, how do we do this? Oh, well, let's encode these numbers into this great pyramid, right? Let's make sure that the pyramid's diameter is exactly the, mathematical representation of the diameter of the earth and all this type of stuff. Yeah. And then I think that knowledge, that truth, right, as it got closer to where we are now, right, the controllers, they obscured and inverted and perverted all of that information and gave us these weird things like, yeah, by the way, the Earth is flying at 66,600 miles an hour through space, right? And does this make sense what I'm saying here?
Yeah, it's almost like there was an event or there was some sort of cosmic thing that's happening and we're just seeing like the echo of it and we're just pulling data from it. But something actually did happen. All we have is like the shadows of the data and we're putting all the science on that. And there might be something to it. Otherwise, something would be wrong. But that's what's crazy. It's like these dudes just had like coal and parchment and their eyeballs. Not even telescopes. Just eyeballs and whatever they were writing with. And they were coming up with hyper accurate. Their measurement tools were like spans, which is what, your hand? You know what I mean? Like they weren't on the metric system in 2300 BC.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were using like cubits, which was like some guy's foot. And they're like, oh yeah, and hyper accurate.
Yeah.
We can't even do that now, dude. The freaking baseboards in this room are crooked.
Yeah.
And somebody inspected it. You know what I mean?
It's true, man. It's true. There's Andy from the Deep Share podcast used to say this all the time, that the enemy, or I don't know the exact quote, but like progress is the enemy, essentially, right? So like as we progress through technology and into the future, right? Like we have, that progress seems great, right? Like, oh yeah, we can manufacture baseboards like in mass. Cool, everybody can have fucking baseboards. They're beautiful, right? But that progress, you lose the craftsmanship, the artistry, the holisticness of all these types of things, to where now we just live in these fucking block buildings that can shatter if you spit on them wrong, right? Whereas back in the day, they were putting like megaliths together with precision and craftsmanship and the math and the astrology and the,
yeah.
or you know what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
the real enemy of humanity is progress.
I saw a short on that exact thing. I forgot about it. You just reminded me. So there's like this ancient god or demon, and it is automation, or it's the idea of like the automaton and whatever. So it's like hyper order and like I guess automation, or I guess, yeah, for lack of a better term, it'd be like automation. And basically, like, the video is explaining that this ancient god was basically like at the expense of the human soul. There is, and like the human essence, you get the robotic kind of systematic steps through things.
Right.
And like that is, so like over time, this entity comes as order. It represents itself as order and innovation and progress and all this kind of stuff. And meanwhile, it just, the human essence is just sacrificed to it.
Yeah.
And so you slowly become more less human, and this thing actualizes in the automation.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude,
Yeah.
that is freaky.
I mean, I feel like that's exactly what's happening, man. And they, the controllers, right? Like they know this and they're doing this on purpose, right? Because, there is like a certain magic, if you will, right? Or spiritualism that comes from like, the old way, right? The holistic way, just being in tune with nature and all that. And the further that they can remove us from that, the more control they have over us, I think. So, again, it seems great at first, yeah, iPhones are cool, whatever. But that blue light and the flickering, the frame rates and all that, like it's fucking brainwashing you. So it's,
Yeah, there's like, and that was another point that I saw. I think someone in the comments was making, that was like, the more advanced we get, the less advanced we get. So like your average human, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, could do anything.
yeah,
Just a guy could just get in a boat, have a map, figure out where he is, and go. And then when he lands, do what he's got to do. Start to figure out the language, work with the people, get the crops going, build a house by hand. You know what I mean? All this kind of stuff. Where your average human now couldn't survive a day or two without power.
yeah.
You drop, and I mean, you look at the show Alone or whatever it was, where they just drop
Such
people
a
off
good
in the
show,
woods.
bro.
It's a great show. They get to bring their tools, they get to bring their like clothes and whatever, and with all of the skills and all of the knowledge of the internet and everything, you can't make it.
Yeah, we were watching that show recently, actually. The one that's on Netflix is a season.
Yeah.
The Australian one, and like literally half of the people left in like the first week.
I'm so irritating.
They just left
Yeah,
in the
that's what I'm
first
saying.
week.
So it's like the more advanced, the less advanced.
Right.
At no point, I mean, 0 points in my life up to this. Like, maybe I'll change in the future, but right now, like, if you stuck me on, if you just plopped me back 150 years ago and were like, hey, we got to go west. Where's that?
Yeah.
What you mean west?
What's
you mean
the
the
guy-
woods?
What's the guy's name? He does like the solo adventures in the Amazon. He's been on like Joe Rogan and all these other podcasts. He got,
God.
he got eaten by an
I know who you're talking
anaconda. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
I know what you're
about?
talking about. Yeah.
He said something one time in one of those podcasts. He was like, you know, I've done these solo trips in the Amazon. I've done trips with people in the Amazon. He's like, everything's so wet. He's like, even with all the, you know, the ferro rods and all the matches and the lighters that we bring, like we can't start a fire. It's like impossible. Yet you go to these primitive tribes out there and they got fire every single day. You know?
Dude, not only do they have fire every day, they have everything they need to survive for thousands of years there. It's not like if you just put him down there, he'd be dead in a month.
Right.
I'd give him a month. He'd probably figure some things out. But a bug bite, a slip and fall, a broken limb, these people are like, hey man, this is just what we do. They probably have I'm sure they've got their own versions of anti-venom and all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, they figured out
don't have that.
ayahuasca, dude, in the Amazon, right? Which is insane because you got whatever, a million plants out there, right? And they figured out like, hey man, you got to take the leaf from this one, you got to take that vine, you got to cook them up a certain type of way, right? You got to hit it with a third element, right? And then like it does this spiritual psychedelic experience for you, you know? And then you got to think like the population numbers aren't that high in those tribes, right? Now I'm sure there's probably a shitload of people in the Amazon that we just don't even know about, right? Like just out there. But you know, each of those tribes they're really small, so they can't really take the risk of just like cooking up a plant and eating it, right?
Yeah.
So
not at all. Especially they got no medicine.
right.
Or-
So they had to really
They might.
like. You think about how mind blowing that is that they had to like that they were able to figure that out thousands
thing,
of years
bro.
ago.
That's where like I've mixed ideas about the population. I don't know which one's not true. What the population has been in the past, or that we discovered things instead of, or that we like figured things out instead of found prior information. Because, like you're saying, you don't have the lifespan to like sit down and just tinker with things all day. You have to feed yourself, make your clothes, grow your crops, do your trade, go to war, protect your all that stuff. You only have daylight. You're not really working at night. You have livestock to attend to, so it's not just like you got to go to the supermarket. You have so many extra things you have to do. And then to also be like a mathematician that is like discovering the circumference of the earth.
This is how they came about, I think. The controllers, the parasites, the fucking Illuminati, okay? Because what you're saying here, right? The regular people were busy hunting, gathering, you know, putting together simple garments and things just to survive out there, right? And when they got to a point to where they had enough food, right? You had the higher classes, right? Like the priesthoods, especially. Like let's look at like the Central American priest class, right? Like the Incans and the Mayans and the Aztecs, right? They're shamans, right? Or they're priests, or whatever you want to call them. Some of those guys, man, they dedicated their entire lives to just watching the sky all day and night. Right. So they, over the course of, you know, this guy might live 50, 60 years watching and keeping track of small movements in the sky. Right. Then he passes that knowledge on to the next shaman, to the next shaman. Next thing you know, you get 10, 20 shamans down. And they have like specific knowledge of the sky clock. Right. So they would know, hey, look, tomorrow there's going to be an eclipse. And they would use that information to control the population. Right. They would get up on top of the pyramid, right? They would sacrifice some people, right? And they'd be like, hey, look, we're going to sacrifice this dude for, you know, to this god or whatever it is. Right. And then the next day, right. Or right then even, you know, the eclipse would happen. And the whole population who knew nothing because they were too busy just surviving would be like, holy shit, he's the man, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever he says goes because he just called upon the blood moon to show up, right? By slitting the homegirl's throat and like, you know what I'm saying? So like I think
Yeah.
that's kind of like how that knowledge got like, you know, compressed and confined into a small class of rulers. And now it's a little different because, you know, we're like in this, you know, we went through the industrial age and all this stuff. But you still have the same thing. There's a saying that people say, you know, millionaires watch the markets and billionaires watch the stars, right? It's like this weird thing where, you know, yeah, regular people, you work hard, you know, you put your head down, you study, you do the right moves, you get a little lucky, you could become a millionaire. Great. But if you want to be in that billionaire class, you're watching the stars, right? You believe in
Yeah, you're looking at like
the
maybe
numerology.
maybe they're looking at like astral trends and stuff, but I think they're looking at things as like a wave instead of trends. You know, it's like, okay, it went up, so it must go down. And it was like equal and opposite reactions. It's like more like, again, holistic. It's not just the analytical. It's like, this is how the universe works.
Right.
And so you can apply this like wave form to everything or energy level things to everything. There's a dude, I like him. You know, he's got some decent videos out there, but he's always wrong about everything for the most part. Peter Schiff, and he's been just calling for a market collapse for like a decade now. And it's like he's one of those millionaires who watch the stocks or whatever. Meanwhile, the billionaires are out here making all the moves and kind of just going with the flow and understanding the ebbs and flows of the market and what's artificial and what's not, and kind of just moving and getting super rich and all that kind of stuff. But this guy is just a millionaire down in Puerto Rico, might not even be millionaire anymore, honestly. And he's just like crunching the numbers. And it's like, dude, there's a whole nother level to this. That this guy is like, oh, the market has to crash because the numbers say, but the billionaires aren't looking at the numbers. The billionaires are looking at the flow over time. Yep. And so yeah, I think they like the priesthood class, they have the time and the resources to sit down and like aggregate huge amounts of data. And now with AI, I mean, who knows what we're going to be able to do, like aggregate tons and tons of data and go, oh, okay, here's the trend, so let's do. But I don't think they're going to use it for the power. I think they're going to use it to survive. What do you think? Like before, 100% what you're saying. They go, ooh, look at this thing. And then they get the blessings and they get the rank up and they become like a king or whatever. But I feel like now it might be like something's going to happen. Here's how I'm going to position myself for it so that I'm better when it's over.
I think that's what it's always been, right? Honestly, you know, I mean, because you can look at like these ancient sites, like what is it? Darren Kuyu, I think is what it is. Have you ever heard of that one?
No.
Look up Darren Kuyu. I think that's what it's called, Darren Kuyu. It's an underground city, okay? Literally like carved into the fucking rocks, okay? And I don't remember the number of people that it held. Tens of thousands of people could survive in this thing.
Holy moly, dude.
You're looking at it, pull it up.
It's a human hive.
Yeah, literally. It's like a hive network, right? Now, the reason I bring this up is I think that, you know, those priest classes and stuff that survived back then, that knew these cyclical events, or like they knew how to like time things based off of what, you know, the universe, right? They just kind of understood the things better. They knew to build this. They knew to carve this out. They knew to put the population to work to carve a giant underground bunker city, okay? It's because they knew that at X time there was going to be a cataclysm, and they were like, this is the only way for us to survive this, right? And then they would go down there with, you know, all of the important people and, you know, some workers and such, and then the cataclysm would happen, and once again everybody would be like, holy shit, you're the man, dude, like how did you know, right? And then, you know, a couple generations go by, they come out of the holes in the ground, and, you know, that bloodline is the you know, they're the ruling class because they saved everybody, you know what I'm saying?
Do you think that but what I mean is do you think now that they're gonna try to save, or do you think it's just gonna be like, oh, this thing's gonna happen? Guess what? I'm just build my bunker. Or do you
Yeah.
think it's gonna be still the other?
I'm not sure. Why does it do this?
I don't know.
What happened? Is it just me?
It's
Yeah, but you're fine on Twitch.
Here, let me try to do this again. Give me a second. Let me do this. Boom. And then I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna come here.
Nope.
There it is. Got it. So I'm going to show
Got it.
something here. I'm going to go back. We're going to take a little step back here for a second.
Okay.
That is not what I wanted to share. You guys see? Yeah, you guys see it.
Symbols of the alien sky.
So here, I'll pull this one up. Does this expand on the stream? No? Okay. So this is a good example right here. You see this picture?
Yeah.
The one on the right there that's kind of expanded. So
Yep.
imagine, we're standing on the earth. Okay, this is what our ancient ancestors would have seen, right? And you can see that there's a sphere in the sky with the red beams coming down, right? And you can see there's another, looks like you can kind of see the sun or something shining on another big body. It's creating the white, thing. And you see the third astronomical body. You see that?
Yep.
So this is the alignment of those three bodies, Mars, Venus, and Saturn, as they're separating, and it's causing these plasmic discharges in the sky. Right now, if you take a look at this, and what does that symbol look like to you? Kind of just blur your vision a little bit. It's horns, right?
Yeah.
So this is where you get the whole age of Taurus,
cow.
right? The cow,
Yeah.
right? Babe, click on the other one that's below that to the left a little bit. That actually click on that one or the other one next to it. Look, right? So here's another example of this, right? So, and you'll see that imagery carved on shit in caves and on tablets going back, however long it is, right? Depending on your belief, whether it's thousands of years or tens of thousands of years, whatever it is. The ancients were marking this down. Click on the one on the second row just to the left of this. It's green. Yep, click on that one. Another example, right? You have the plasmic discharges coming from these bodies. And again, our ancestors were looking up in the sky at this every day, and they were marveling at this. They were worshiping these things as Mount Olympus or the Taurus or whatever the case was. Click on the one just to the left of that one. Here's the one I was talking about. That's the Egyptian headdress thing, right?
Yeah.
So one of the astronomical bodies has now gone way off in the distance, but it's still creating that plasmic discharge to Mars, right? So it looks like that curled thing. So if you look at ancient Egyptian iconography, you'll see the royalty, the princes, they always had the one lock of hair on the side, right? That looked just like that, right? So they
Yeah.
were emulating what they were seeing in the sky all the time. You see what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think this type of stuff was really what was going on. And through the cataclysms that happened from these events, people were getting wiped, but the priest classes, they understood what was really being talked about and said. And they were trying to pass this information on to future generations, right? By carving this into stuff, by encoding it into religious texts and tablets and scrolls. And then, the ruling class of today, they took all that and they just completely inverted and perverted it. And they still use the same stuff as a method of control, but it's an inverted version of control, right? Where, back in the day, they were all worship this as gods in the skies, and they were, warring amongst each other and all that kind of stuff. And they would use that to control the population. Now they just tell us hey man, we live in a heliocentric universe or solar system or whatever. We're out here all alone. Nothing cool ever fucking happens, and they hit us with the numbers and shit. And it's still a control mechanism. It's just an inverted version of it. Scroll down a little bit. There's a lot of really good examples of this, and I'll send you the link to this video. Because the guy really breaks it down, and they have the plasma science to back it up, which is really interesting. Because Click on that one on the far left. Down one. That one. Yep. So on the left is what they would have seen in the sky. On the right is like an example of, these cave drawings, right?
Wow.
You see what I mean?
Oh, I see the other one with Shiva all the way on the right.
Shiva on the, yeah, click the one on the bottom right, underneath the one that's expanded, all the way to the right, all the way to the right, more. Yep,
Oh, right
that one. Okay, so you have Venus and Mars separating from each other, causing massive electrical storms, if you will, plasmic discharges in the sky, right?
Yeah.
And the cultures were creating these archetypes like Medusa, right? Like, Shiva or whatever it is, the angry goddess. Even the tongue is sticking out, right? And all that stuff. So it's crazy to me. This type of stuff right here hits. Click on the one on the bottom right under that. Right? You got Atlas holding up, they tell us it's Atlas holding up the earth. I think it was really this, it was this one body, this one entity, the red, Mars, right, holding up another entity. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. This reminds me of, like, I don't know why, but it's like sometimes a video game is like, sometimes they just hit a note and you go, "Oh, hold on a second. What is that?" Like what was it? Was it Destiny where they have like the Traveler? It's that little moon that finds Earth with all the technology on it, and we become like a breakaway civilization. I think it's Destiny.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to be.
I didn't play enough Destiny to know the lore at all.
But I'm pretty sure that's what happens. Like, we find something on the back of the moon or whatever. There's like some kind of cave in there, and then there's this celestial body, the Traveler. It comes to Earth. There's all kinds of technology or whatever. The body itself is like this thing, and we get all kinds of information. It protects the Earth, and it's like, oh man, dude, like we ascribed traits and personhood to these celestial bodies, and it's like, what if there was one that was traveling, a traveler that would come back and forth to Earth and would create these plasma beams when it left, and that's where you get these big jumps in civilization,
So
there's like, it's very interesting.
that's kind of the whole Saturnalia religion is that. So just going back to it, in the golden age, okay, way back when, okay, and they literally called it the golden age, which is so like, because you see Trump's using the golden age phrase now, and it's interesting to me. But in the golden age, when all of the celestial bodies were in perfect alignment and there was harmony in the universe, they say, okay, it was peace and harmony in the universe, and we were one with nature and all that good stuff, right? It was the Garden of Eden, okay, that type of city. It was paradise. And remember, like I said, Saturn was the predominant object in the sky, okay, and they call Saturn the original sun, literally, in Saturnalia, okay. He was the original sun. There was no sun that we know it, right? So if you look into, and they'll give you little pieces of truth in the lies, right? So, recently they've come out with studies, these fake space agencies, and they've said that almost every solar system is a dual star system, right? It's two stars orbiting each other, okay? Like even Earth, where it's a dual star system. I think us and Alpha Centauri, we're in like a binary star system. That's the word I'm looking for. Binary star system. Okay. That's the truth, but it's hidden in that lie that it's us and Alpha Centauri, right? What it really is Saturn and Sol, Saturn and the sun, right? When the sun came close enough and it cast, Jupiter away, it cast Saturn away, right? And that's literally in the scriptures of all the different religions, right? Like the Son, the Son of God, whatever, however you want to frame this, cast away Satan, Saturn, right? Launched it out away from us, and it became the new sun, right? It became the new light source, life-giving source for us, right? And all of the other bodies were dispersed as well. And that brought about the end of the golden age and into this new age that we've been in for however many, eons, right? So the question then comes, like, what happens when that comes back around, right? Like, are we in this situation where there's, you know, what's the word? Like stability, then chaos, and then out of chaos, more stability, right? Order out of chaos, right? It's literally written on the fucking money and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, right? So, like, that's kind of what I think about when I think about this kind of stuff. And when you get into the temples and stuff, I think that they just knew this. I think that they understood these cyclical patterns, this cycle that happens, right? And the cataclysm comes, and then you have order for a long time, right? And then all of a sudden, like, the body comes back, and then boom, chaos erupts because things happen and cataclysms happen and all this stuff. So that's really what I think about when I look at the temples, when I look at the Darren Kuyus, and when I look at, like the priesthood class understanding the sky clock and like doing all the sacrifices to the gods to bring about the next age, right? When I see Trump out there, touting America's golden age in all capital letters every single time, right? It's like, to me, they know that the end of this cycle of chaos is coming, and order out of chaos the order is about to come, right? Now,
A new
world order, right? Now they're also in a cult at the same time. So as above, so below. So when what they know is happening above, right, in the astronomical sense or in the universe, right, when they see like the end of the chaotic cycle coming and we're about to be into a cycle of order again, they're
new
also
order of worlds.
they're replicating that as above, so below. They're replicating that below, so here, right? So we have artificial intelligence, all this high technology, right? Where they're trying to bring order to the chaos here because they're trying to mimic what's above, the order out of the chaos that's coming there. And the Saturnalia, the Saturn death cult people, they've been worshiping this and they believe this as much as you believe in Jesus. They believe in the Saturnalia, occultism just as much. The difference is they have power over the systems that we all live under. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Bro, that's kind of crazy. So, like, I was having a conversation kind of along these lines with my youngest brother. We got to get him on the pod sometime, man. He's deep into some stuff, especially like energy stuff. And he was explaining to me, like, he's been researching like declassified not FBI, these declassified research documents. And one of them was talking about this plasma thing where if you have a frequency and you play the inverse of that frequency the other way, they cancel each other out, and the instruments that you would normally use to detect them can't detect them. It becomes null. So he's like, here's so this was blowing my mind, and he was showing me the research papers on these things. Like, they're declassified. This is what government money, black budget money went to studying these things. You have these two bodies that are emitting a frequency opposite of each other. So the communication is not detectable. There's communication there. There is information. There is a wavelength to be detected, but you can't. So he was saying, we were reading that when they take these two bodies, right, and they put like tons and tons of energy into these waves and then separate them, you get this huge plasma emission. I'm like, two bodies, opposite frequencies, thrown apart. Where'd they get this idea from? Right? To even think to look at that.
Well,
Maybe maybe it was Earth and another,
yeah.
It's just like, if you tell that to anybody who's a person of science, they're gonna go, whatever, dude. But then real scientists that are not confined to the prescripted boxes that a scientist needs to be prescribed to, they're like, no, actually, yes. Yes, there's things that there's levels to this energy game. Like there's levels to the numbers. And like he was explaining to me how like 8 and 9 are like opposite numbers. They're the furthest numbers away from each other energy wise, and how like we got to get him on. He's big into how the universe works on an energy level. But like just the research papers of these scientists that like back this stuff up, and they were classified at some point, which is like, why are you classifying science? What's
I mean, well, it's
what
always
you
been
trying to figure
classified.
out?
It's always been classified, right? Just in a different
Class.
sense.
Yes. Wow, dude, you're on it with the friggin' puns today, or
Yeah.
whatever that is. That double on.
Yeah, the double speak, bro. The
Yeah.
double speak, the language, the spelling, right? The magic of spelling, casting spells. It's all connected in some weird ways. I don't even fully understand it, but I understand it just enough to see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's interesting. Like it goes all the way down to the bottom levels, right? Like I think there was something about like 322 is a big number, right? If you look at Skull and Bones, right? Secret Society, Skull and Bones, that like, the Illuminati and the presidents are part of this Skull and Bones. Their number is 322 and all this shit, right? Well, you see like that that earthquake that happened and the tsunami, right? Well, the tsunami warnings, if you look at the timestamps of when the tsunami warnings were posted, it was at 322, right? There's a lot of like weird occult symbolism and magic, if you will, that's happening even on a low end, like just in day to day, right? But they know, again, the billionaires are looking at the stars, right? Like they're understanding something that we're not quite understanding. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, there's definitely something to that, man. Especially when you get into like, this is why I love Electric Universe stuff so much, because
Yeah.
it debunks the current understanding of space, right? And the heliocentric model. There's actual science to back it up as well, right? And it also ties into like the ancient symbology and the numerology and the astrology and all those things. They all connect to this electric universe idea instead of this gravity based universe idea, right? Gravity's, and that's a psyop in itself too, right? Gravity, and I can go on a long list about it, but just to stay on the punny idea here, right? Like gravity pulls you down, bro. It's
Yeah.
pulling you down, bro. It's bringing you down, dude. Right?
Well, what's really interesting, I've always thought this is kind of crazy, is like the further away we get from whatever the event is, right? Hold on, what the more just pop in here? I searched Bang Highland cow, male, female, co-pilot, you can differentiate with the horns, male horns. Oh, they're talking about horns on a cow.
Yeah, they're
bro,
still
there's
talking
lots-
about they're still talking about the horns, bro.
There's a lot of cows with horns. There's some big ones here down in Florida. Big horns. But anyway, so there's like events, right? And the further away we get from the event, the less data we have on the event, because that's how history works. There's no equations for history. It's analytical. You have data captured by the people that were witness to the event, and you have to like, there's no like equation, there's no math you can go put on a chalkboard that's going to show that Abraham Lincoln was our 15th president or whatever, 16th president. I don't know, I can't remember what he is, but you can't, or you know what I mean? Like there's no math, there's no equation to show that. It's data, it's the stories, it's somebody else had to write it down at some point, and somehow we've outsourced the thinking to equation folks that are like explaining history, ancient, the most ancient of history, with equations. And it's like discounting everybody that was at the event, everybody that was the closest to it, even if their interpretations of the events are different, there's still an underlying, like, something is keeping this whole thing together, some other thing, or there's information out there that is being imparted to us. Call it whatever you want. There's something else out there, and there's a way to communicate with them. Call it what you like, but there's things out there that are listening to us, that can hear us and do interact in some point. There's way too much knowledge for way too primitive of people to have. It's like, where's the equation? There's no equations for that. There's no equations for that. It took equations thousands of years to figure out that there's Sirius C, but somebody with no telescope knew.
Yep.
So, you know, with no equations.
Yeah.
So explain that. And then how do I trust your equations better than I trust, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The person that said a fish god came out of the ocean. It's like, well, they knew there was a star there they should know about, and they claimed it was some fish person, some other entity from the ocean. And you got the side, well, no, there's not actually an entity in the ocean. Have you explored the whole thing? No. How did they know about the thing before you did? You got to explain it somehow. Nobody explains it. Where did these temples come from? Nobody knows. Well, they're here, though. Like, nobody knows isn't a good answer.
Yeah, well, then they claim to know. You know, they always attribute these temples or these pyramids or whatever, these megaliths, to specific rulers, right? So like they would always say, I forget who is the Egyptian pharaoh that they credit for the building of the Great Pyramid. I forget his name, but you know, they say that he was responsible for building, not him personally.
Tutankhamun. It's like, no.
Yeah, no. He was probably, you know, one of the ones who found it, right? Or his people were,
Yeah.
or his era was the era that found it, right? They dug this thing up
Found
out
it,
of the ground.
tried to restore it,
Sure.
told some pictures on it. I'm sure the hieroglyphs are probably have nothing to do with the pyramid itself.
Right.
They're probably like understanding it and putting down like instructions in it or something. Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Same thing that happens today. You know, we look at something and we're like, oh yeah, you know, it's this and that, and then they hand us the truth or the facts of the thing, right? And you know, if you question that, then it's heresy. And it's the same thing back then.
Yeah. It just, you can't, the explanation that they have for these things is like, it's a non-explanation. It's like, no, it shouldn't be possible. So either it's way older, which means that there was no cavemen, or like you got to explain, how's a fossilized footprint of a human with a dinosaur? They are millions of years apart. So you have to explain that. What? No explanation. I don't know. Maybe dinosaurs are a lot of, yeah. What do you, yeah.
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 Or maybe there was giant beasts that lived among men, you know, not so long ago, right?
Not so long ago. Exactly.
Yep. That's the truth.
I
right?
just, I can't get, like, the temples, whoever suggested the temples, was it Turts or was it Dirty Shinobes? Dirty Shinobi? I don't remember. That one's really just kind of rewired me a little bit because they're everywhere. It's like, what are the odds that every single civilization had a breakaway civilization in it? You know, the Egyptians, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the whatever was up in Russia, that their whole Tartary or whatever, the Indians, the ancient Chinese, and the Thai, and every single one of them. And then whatever we were doing over here, dude, with our megalithic things and burying giants and the stuff in the Grand Canyon. Every single continent, every single people had a breakaway civilization on it. They're finding pyramids up in the Arctic. Like, come on.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. The Moore says that the Egyptian pyramids and temples are only as old as the founding of the United States, right? I think you said this before, that the pyramids were poured concrete by the Templars, you know, 400 years ago or something like that. And listen, that
No,
that's
that's
kind of the point. That's kind of the point that I think we're making, right? Like history as we're told it is a lie, right? The timelines are fudged, the facts are fudged, the characters in the stories are fudged. That's what I'm saying. Now, I don't claim to know, right? Now, the more I'm sure you've dug into that more than I have, obviously. So maybe you've got some information on the pyramids being poured by Templars, right? And I'm open to hearing that because I'm not against that at all. You know what I'm saying? I've said
Yeah,
this
join
before
the
too.
Facebook and drop some stuff in there, bro, so we
Yeah,
can know what you know. We want to
you
get
know,
with our hands on the same kind of research. But yeah, join the
I,
Facebook group and
I
drop some
I'm not
stuff in there.
opposed to that at all. Now I've said before, like I'm biased, right? I enjoy speculating and daydreaming about the ancestors 100,000 years ago building crazy stuff that they weren't supposed to be able to build. I enjoy that. It's fun for me. So I always kind of default to that, like, hey, the pyramids are 200,000 years old, not 5,000 years old, right? So I think as far as like what the Moore says here, and he said before, I think that we're on a similar wavelength that, hey, history's a lie. You know, you're just on this end of it where it's like poured 400 years ago by Freemasons. I'm on this end of it where I'm like, no, built, 200,000 years ago by the ancestors. But either way, the narratives that we're told, not just about the pyramids, but about all of this stuff, the stuff that's happening in the sky, the timelines, all that shit, dinosaurs, it's all bullshit.
Yeah, there's some very interesting old timey photos of even structures here in America. These ornate buildings, beautiful marble buildings with mud at the bottom of them. And it's like the streets are barely even streets. Like they can make a beautiful marble building in the center of town, in the center of these big grids that they do all these geometric symbols, barely have roads. How is that possible?
Yeah.
You got mud roads. You built that mud
No,
road?
that those are the cultures that stumbled across or whatever. That's what my thoughts always are on that. There's another temple. I can't remember off the top of my head. There's another one where I think it was the temple of. Damn, the Romans built a temple on top of Egyptian stuff, right?
Oh
And
yeah, it's not the Parthenon.
no,
Is it
it's another one.
no?
I'm trying to think of what the name is of it. Damn.
I know what you're talking about, but it's one to a god, I believe, of like
Yeah,
Venus maybe or something.
yeah, I don't know. There's some temple anyways,
One of
right?
them,
And
yeah.
and the problem is that it sits on top of giant megalithic stones, right? So
Like the pyramids.
you know what I'm saying? Like there's just something, I don't know. The timelines are screwy, bro. The
Yeah.
timelines are screwy, bro. I don't know what is real or what is the fact of the matter, other than, to this day, you're supposed to just trust the experts. Just like back
Yeah.
then, you're supposed to just trust the experts. They'll
Well,
tell you what the truth is.
this is what throws off everything, right? Okay, this is perfect, right? The Moore is saying this is poured concrete 400 years ago by the Freemasons or whatever, 200 years ago by the Freemasons. If those structures under the pyramids are connected to the pyramids and they're real, well, that goes out the window because you're not pouring that much concrete into the ground and nobody knows. Especially in Cairo, like across the street from Cairo. It's not happening. So, but neither are the ancient Egyptians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like the history is only as good as our understanding of what's actually there. But in textbooks, dude, how many decades of textbooks say that this pharaoh built these things with Jewish slaves during these years? For fact, when it's clearly not true. It's like we got tested on it, we got graded on it. There are people that have dedicated their lives to making up stories, Egyptologists, making up stories about the pyramids. 100% not the case if those structures under the pyramids are what they say they are.
Yeah.
all out the window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
And
talking about
that's
the
just
scans?
those, dude.
You talking about
Yeah,
the
the scans.
scans? Yeah, yeah.
Those scans, those giant freaking coils underneath. And that's just those. We've not done the ziggurat of Ur or the Mayan and Aztec temples. They could be under those too. And that, dude, if that's the case, alien demon things are real for 100% certain. There's no, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, just using those scans as an example, right? Even if the Freemasons poured the pyramids a few hundred years ago, right? Why'd they pour them there? Is it because there's another structure underneath that they were
Burying?
either burying or marking, right? Or
Yeah.
or whatever the case is,
Trying to
so
harness some energy off of maybe?
you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever see that movie Prometheus?
Long time ago. Yeah, once.
Right? They go to like the other planet, whatever planet they're on, and then they go in, they find like this crazy like alien structure, giant alien structure. They go inside, right? And then they find like the beings, still frozen in fucking not frozen, but they're like asleep in
Yeah,
their
they're preserved or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, their stasis chambers or whatever.
Yeah.
And those beings looked like the statues of the Greek gods, like chiseled jaws, like shredded,
Yeah.
like they were literally like walking Greek statues,
Yeah, tiny wieners.
Yeah, yeah, like obviously that's a movie, right?
Yeah.
But there's something to that. There's like something in there that's like, wait a minute, like again, the ancients knew something or know something. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some, I don't know what it is, man, but that
It
movie,
doesn't seem so disconnected from a reality that people once held to,
yeah, for sure.
you know?
Yeah.
Same with if you ever like there's a nice it's not too long, it's maybe 5 or 6 minute long video of like the entirety of the Halo lore, the whole story, because the games are out of order and they go back and tell different stories, but like the forerunners who made the whatever, and like how they created the worlds and the halos and all this, like the actual story of it, you go, huh, interesting. Same with Destiny, you go, huh, interesting. I wonder if there's Alien vs Predator. I did watch it again, fire, and actually like, whoa, dude, the Aztec, like they were coming, the Predators were coming down in their ships and giving offerings, like the CIA calls our findings of these alien technologies, their offerings. They would do offerings and stuff to the Predators, and then do their hunt. Maybe that's what dinosaurs were. They would bring down these things or breed these giant animals, and they'd go and hunt them. That's why we don't have thousands and thousands of Stegosaurus bones, which we should.
Yeah.
We
Well,
have a couple.
Prometheus is Alien,
It's like the precursor to Alien, right?
right?
Yes.
So that whole Alien Predator
Yeah.
mythology or whatever, like somebody knows something,
There's-
man. Bless you.
It's not that it's not that any of it is necessarily like true or not, but it could be that echo of, or that our mythos of an event. You know what I mean? Because again, we have technology we shouldn't have. People knew how to do things historically based on what we've been told they shouldn't have been able to do. They
Yeah.
know about celestial bodies they shouldn't know about.
Yep.
They're structures that should not even be capable of being built in their location. Dudes
Yep.
were using stones to look at the wobble of a galaxy that is undetectable by the human eye. How? So there's a story there that we don't know. And so, yeah, when you get, and then that's the weird thing, dude. It's like there's these stories, and obviously Ridley Scott is just making stuff up, kind of. But then you got like these people saying, yeah, we'd go out into the desert and we'd receive an offering, or we'd get an offering, or whatever. Like, they're giving us things for whatever. It's like, who knows, dude? Maybe that's why they didn't release the Epstein files, is because those girls ain't there. Those girls got offered
Could
to
be.
go breed intergalactic.
Hey, listen, we've talked about that before. We've literally talked about that on the last episode. That even if the files all came out, the real truths of it are never coming out, right? Because they can never. It's hard enough for them to grasp releasing, who was on the list, right? Because not just the politicians, but the scientists that are involved, right? That enough would crack society open and it would be chaos. But if you went a layer below that and you were like, yeah, and also they were like draining adrenochrome out of people in the fucking dungeons underneath Epstein's Island, it's like, what? Oh, they were
Yeah.
also sacrificing people to like Moloch or something. It's like,
There
huh?
you go.
Like,
Stephen Hawking?
yes, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes, him. Bill
yeah.
Gates? Yes. Yes, him. I didn't do anything sexual with any of these people. I bet you didn't.
Yeah.
I bet you didn't.
Maybe you didn't, bro, but sacrificing, babies to entities is that's worse.
Yes.
All right?
Yeah.
Let's
You
just be
weren't
real
a
here.
billionaire just talking to another billionaire on an island, in international waters.
Yeah.
With children around. You know? And then and a ranch, that was probably a freaking baby mill.
Right, with 1 million people a year disappearing. Millions of people a year disappearing, Yeah.
We didn't even look at what percentage of them are women.
No, we didn't.
We didn't even look, because who knows? That could be significant.
It could, there we go.
Oh,
Crystal
hold
ball.
on. That could bum you out real bad. 80% are women. Oh.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a narrative there that we just don't know. And it's like, it's fun to fill in the blanks on the stuff because it's not super cut and dry. Like, oh, there was a bunch of guys just oonga-boongaing around, and then the right two paired up and just happened to make a different species of human that was still genetically viable with all the other ones that hadn't evolved yet. And then also cross stuff that should be happening all the time. None of it makes any sense. And then, just stardust going through a galaxy. No, dude. No.
Yeah, tell me, what's the numbers?
So, in an overall, this is just the United States because that's all it's going to give me.
Yep.
Overall, 48% of missing people in the United States are female. However, when you break
It's
it
more
down,
dudes.
more dudes. When you break it down by age, though,
Yeah.
if they're under 21, it's 54% of the missing people under 21 are women. And if they're over 21, only 39% are women.
Whoa.
Yeah.
They're going for the
Actually,
youth, dude.
overall is more males.
Dang, those numbers are hard to even wrap your mind around.
Well, that kind of makes sense to me, especially if you are harvesting adrenochrome or adrenaline or some hormone in that vein, because I feel, I don't know this, I'm just guessing here, but I would imagine that
Intuition
men
would
would
say.
probably intuition would say that men would put off more of that adrenaline in those sacrificial situations, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's just my theory on that, because men are fighters, right? Like, we're warriors, at heart, right? So if something's going down, if somebody's splitting me open and blood eagling me on the altar while I'm still alive, right? Like, I'm going to be like in full panic / rage / just adrenaline, you know what I'm saying? Whereas women are more probably inclined to just kind of like
Pass out, die.
just pass out, give up, no
Sorry,
offense
ladies.
to women out there. Yeah.
No,
but,
this is pure speculations.
yeah, pure
Pure
speculations.
speculations.
But,
But then
it makes
also
sense.
you go for the youthful. It's funny, right? As soon as childbearing years kind of like are not at a peak, all of a sudden.
It's men.
You're telling me that's not significant? As soon as childbearing years dip off,
Yep.
as soon as they're not peak anymore,
Well, you
they
need
just all of a sudden stop disappearing.
you need the women in that age for the baby factories, and you need the older men for the harvesting of the adrenalines and the hormones for the
Right, 'cause if
for the
she's a
magic.
female by the time she's 14 or 15, she started her period, which means she can have babies.
Right.
You can have her have a baby a year, just about,
Yep.
for 7-8 years.
For 7 years.
Yeah,
Huh.
go figure.
Huh.
Wow, dude, it's a lot of numbers.
Interesting stuff. Well, listen, we've been at this for an hour and 20 minutes.
Nice, good run, dude.
Good run. Good episode, I think.
Heck
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know where it started, but
Not there.
I guess that's how this show goes. We start off talking about one thing, and next thing you know, we're deep down in the Epstein dungeons.
It's all waves, dude. It's all the universe. It's all intertwined. Everything has to do with everything. But we definitely, the more we got to get you on, dude, again, and let's talk pyramids. I'm interested to hear what possibilities, even if it's just a window to some greater possibilities, even if it's not like the Freemasons did it to just to do it, but like what else is there? What else is beneath the surface? And then I got to try to get my brother on too. We had a crazy 2 hour long conversation about energy and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty sick. And also these experiments, dude, that pouring billions of dollars into. So let's do it. Let's get some guests on these next couple episodes.
Yep. The more says Shadow Band podcast after hours. Get the lady a mic.
Yeah, dude. Let's talk breeding rituals.
Radical has a mic they were supposed to send me a year ago. Still waiting.
Yep. Still waiting. Yep. Yep. But yeah, put a slideshow together, man. Show us some pictures. Come back on the show again, dude. That was a good show when you came on
Yeah, I
last time,
loved
bro.
when we
And,
talked about 9/11. That was crazy.
you know, people are tired of hearing me and Creamer just speculate about everything all the damn time. So it's always nice
No,
to
they're
get another
not.
voice.
It'll never get old.
No, but it's nice to get like a third voice in here
Heck yeah.
sometimes to just, you know, help me shift my
Just cool stuff that
perspective
we don't
on
know about.
things. Yep. All right.
Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody.
Well, yep. Appreciate it. Adios.
Bye.
No, hit the stop
Bye.
button. Don't hit there. There you go. Hit the stop button.
See you later.
There you go.